He is a police officer, a former mountain infantryman, and his name is Mojave. That day, after a robbery, his team set up a roadblock. A car approaches them. It stops. The door opens, and without a word, a man shoots. One of Mojave's colleagues collapses, shot in the head, while others crawl on the ground to take cover. Gunshots ring out. Chaos erupts. Mojave is face to face with the robber, just a few meters away. He orders him to drop his weapon. Their eyes meet. The man shoots. Mojave fires back, and the threat is neutralized. But the story doesn't end there. His colleague is seriously injured. Without waiting for help, Mojave uses the techniques he learned in the army, the ones that make the difference between life and death. Before joining the police, Mojave experienced Afghanistan, combat, extreme pressure, and invisible wounds. Today, we're dedicating a special episode to him to revisit his biggest stories as a former soldier, but also as a field police officer. The missions, the shootouts, the split-second decisions, and what it leaves behind when the body comes home, but the mind is still fighting. Welcome to one of the most powerful story cubes we've ever made. The true story of a man who survived the war, the field, and who is still fighting to save lives.
We started operational preparation for Afghanistan, and we had an armed confrontation with the Taliban. An old man, about 80 or 85 years old, got into an argument with his neighbor, went to get a weapon. He had a revolver at home and put it in his neighbor's mouth. And he told him, "Next time you annoy me, I'll blow your head off." He was a robber who had shown his weapon, who had carried out another armed robbery. So actually we set up a roadblock, and it turns out that 3 minutes later we see the vehicle coming straight at us, and then he shoots at a BAC officer 2 bullets to the head.
Hello everyone. Today on StoryCube we have Mojave as our guest. So Mojave is a former police officer who went through an absolutely crazy story. He even wrote a book. It's called Of Sweat and Blood. What's it about? This book?
It's a book that represents my entire journey from my childhood up to today.
So everything you've experienced in your career before and during?
Exactly, from the beginning up to today.
Okay, where can we find it? Overall?
Everywhere, SNAC on the website of the publishing house that published me, on Amazon.
Obviously, we'll put the link in the first line of the description for those who are interested. Before getting to the heart of the matter, I thought it might be relevant to go back a bit to the context. How did you grow up in the beginning? How did it all start in the end, your childhood? How did it begin?
I could describe my childhood as a bit turbulent. My parents were separated, and I wasn't exactly a good student. I would tell myself that I'd rather do sports than stay in a classroom. I had 2 or 3 dreams in mind, and I started with the first one, which was to join the army.
Incredible, you joined the army. At what age?
I joined the army when I was around 19 years old.
How did it go there, and how did you progress?
In the end, I joined an Alpine Hunters Battalion, which is mountain infantry, that I joined in 2008 battalion.
Do you remember your first mission there?
I think so too. We had one, it was called Vigipirate. At the time, in the Sentinels, it was Roissy. Patrols in sites that are considered sensitive. Well, at the time, they were sensitive sites, so airports, tourist spots, and so on. Then the second mission was an overseas operation. It was Central Africa.
That's the briefing. So what do you have to do there?
It's about the French presence. It was intelligence gathering in the capital, which was Bangui, and its surrounding bush areas.
When you say intelligence, I believe it like a crazy person from the ARIX.
The Central African Republic is a country where there are still coups from time to time. There's a bit of an ethnic war and a religious war over there, so the goal was precisely to preserve peace. In any case, to try as much as possible to preserve peace, and to push back the rebels who were outside the capital to prevent coups and to gather intelligence. Also, at the airport, it wasn't a mission where your life was at risk every time you went out.
So what is it really? You're just making sure things go well, right?
Basically gathering intelligence, getting some information. Where are the rebels at a given moment, pushing them back if needed. Then we did civil military actions. We helped build wells and schools in Bangui. There was training for other armies as well. Chad was with us. We had the Central African Army. We also had Gabon with us. So we also gave them a lot of combat training. We did topography. I think there was some French, a Korean, a bit of everything.
How did you progress? Then what happened next?
After that, we returned to France. The regiment was ready to leave for Afghanistan almost a year later. So
when you say that, does it mean they're going to call you to go intervene over there?
My company is set to leave, so we come back from Central Africa, we get a 15-day leave, and then we start another preparation cycle. At that point, I take training courses for promotion, then advanced courses. After that, we begin operational prep for Afghanistan. Damn.
How does it go? Is it tough?
There are many fights, including disembarked and mountain battles.
What is it exactly? How does it work? Combat training?
Each training is different. Sometimes we might spend several days having to infiltrate in the mountains. Exactly, having a specific mission like neutralizing, destroying, gathering intelligence, or we can also work on the basics of combat. How to disembark from a vehicle, how to set up protection around a vehicle, how to work in a group, how to work as a team, how to work in a squad.
So what is it? It means that you actually coordinate in a kind of choreography, so to speak, you see, so that it's always the same thing.
Yeah, it's called drills in the army. We drill a scenario, we train shooting to be effective. There are guys who will train in everything related to learning how to handle a radio properly. Guys who will have different specialties with different weapons. So we train with our specialty weapons. Everyone trains individually, and there's also collective training that is set up so we can be ready to go.
Company called over there, what happens next?
2/3 of the regiment were set to leave, called to go to Capisac, which was one of the regions where France was operating, and we were leaving for 6 months over there to do counterinsurgency, that's it.
What is that?
It's a counter-guerrilla mission fighting against the Taliban. So,
Isn't it dangerous? How is it done?
well, yes, it's a combat mission, so yes, there is a latent danger when we go out. It went pretty well. I'm here.
It's clear, just so people can get an idea. So you get there, what's your routine like over there? Well, it's the same.
There's not really a routine because actually it depended on each person's specialty, or rather each group's specialty. I was in a support group, so we went out a lot. We could provide support to the units from my battalion that went out, or we could provide support to the special forces who had to go after, I don't know, a high value target. When you say support,
What do you mean? Like you staying behind, for example? No.
us, either we were positioned on high points or we went out in vehicles or on foot. We often infiltrated into the mountains to take a high position and set up our weapon systems so we could support the units below, even if there was trouble.
And there had already been trouble at one point when we were doing everything, yeah?
Every time, every time, as soon as we went out, we had an armed confrontation with the Taliban.
How does it go? A confrontation, is it like in the movies? I don't know. Are there shots and rockets flying everywhere, or is it very quick? Or actually, are there just three?
No, it depends. Sometimes it can be. We can just get harassed. They shoot 2 or 3 bursts and it stops, or we can be pinned down at one spot and it can last for hours. Plus, if someone is wounded, we have to help them, which means we can't retreat and might get pinned down. Each time was different.
Had it ever happened to you to have, I don't know, a guy from your company, for example, on those missions over there at that time who was wounded? Yeah, wounded, for example, or I had...
Not from my company, so I was lucky. In my group, we didn't have any wounded. My company, there was still quite a few wounded, but they weren't from my section, so I didn't have to treat people from my company. I did treat Afghan army soldiers who had been wounded. In our French camp, we also had Afghan army personnel. French doctors opened the infirmary several days a week for locals, so I took shifts to help. We provided care to the population living around the area. They were called FOBs, the French camps mainly. There were a lot of medications, and it was mostly the Afghan army. They were often at the front.
How does it work, taking a position like that? I don't know, do you have to secure a place or something? Is there a specific procedure? Is it, I don't know, do certain infantry units go ahead first? How does it work?
Often we would go out before the rest of the detachment went out. Okay, damn, is that it? We would infiltrate at night, often, or at least leave early in the morning, infiltrate and set up a defense. We were often assisted by several groups who provided our protection. So basically, we would secure a 360-degree perimeter for ourselves, and then we were able to provide support. That's how we would secure a location for you. Honestly, it could be 10 of us, or it could be around 30 at different points. Okay, oh yeah, still, I wouldn't say. There weren't many of us in the end, and once we set up defense, the rest of the detachment often went out with the Afghan army. These were joint missions operating in the valleys for specific purposes.
What was the usual goal of those missions, or were they just examples?
Often it was a lot of what they called boxing rounds. Basically, the Kapisa was divided into different boxes, and actually we had to take back the boxes from the Taliban. So we were taking back areas that we knew we had lost or that the Afghan army had lost.
It's actually about territorial battles.
Exactly, it's territorial battles for. Actually, the purpose of our French presence was to secure a route called the Vermont Axis. It was a route that crossed Afghanistan and connected, I believe, China to Kabul.
You really succeeded while you were there.
Yeah, anyway, on our side it was secure.
It's the same, I make a comparison, but we often imagine, like in movies with impressive stuff, were there actually sometimes impressive things? I don't know, vehicles driving around the street or things like that.
I remember one of the first times I went out. So we go out in the morning, we go and secure a high point. There were two missions happening at the same time. One was a convoy that had to pass by and arrive at our base, and the other one, there was a special defense operation going on at the same time in the green zone, so it was called the green zone. The convoy was passing through, but it was being harassed from all sides by the Taliban.
When you say harassed, what do you mean? The Taliban were firing bullets to deter them?
Yeah, they were trying to stop the convoy or destroy a vehicle. That was their thing.
They have special techniques for that?
The main technique was either harassment fire with light weapons, AKs, things like that, weapons like that, or otherwise it was IEDs, improvised explosive devices, which they placed under the roads, and as soon as the vehicle passed, they blew up the vehicle. What was striking was that we were up high, we could see the special forces operating in a section of the terrain, and then at one point they got entangled, so they had to reorganize. In one, it was called les campans, they're Afghan houses, we called them campans, they're houses made out of earth. Bricks, which were quite tall and made pretty square houses with an inner courtyard, and often you could go up on the roofs. We saw them there getting into a defensive position because they were caught a bit from 180 degrees. That's when the enemies closed in on them. They took a small 40mm rifle grenade. Some operators fell from the upper floor. We then heard they were wounded. One was eviscerated and another possibly riddled with bullets. We were posted there but couldn't do anything since we couldn't see them. We had a rough idea where the shots came from, but the green zone kept us from supporting them. Then there were quite a few buildings. They were hiding behind the buildings, so at our level we couldn't support them. It was pretty frustrating. So at that point the command decided to trigger an alert we had. Actually, there was always an alert section in the French base. A section then went out to look for the wounded.
It's an extra section with more soldiers.
Every day there was a section that was on alert. Okay, if there was a section, a group that was in trouble outside, well, they would go out to secure engagements or the groups advance so they could help them get out, or if they were wounded, to bring them back to the camp and so on.
They ended up going out?
Yeah, they got out. Well, there were still quite a few wounded during this operation among the special forces, but I think they all made it out alive.
So what's next for you over there? What's going to happen?
Well, it was kind of the missions. It was always support for us, often a few missions. Same thing also, combat missions in the valley and always some kind of confrontation, more or less, with the Taliban. But the mission itself lasted about 6 or 7 months. It ended pretty well for us. And then after that, we went back to France. We went through a decompression center in Cyprus.
What's that, generally speaking?
Actually, it's a decompression center set up by the army. When we come back from a mission after having been in combat, it's a place to relax and decompress. And before seeing our families again and returning to normal civilian life, we go through a decompression center. The army often pays for us. In our case, it was a hotel, a 5-star hotel. And then during those 3 days, we readjust a bit to civilian life. We see a psychologist and we do potential optimization techniques. With breathing exercises, we go about our lives a bit, we rest, we do some sports, and we gradually readjust to civilian life.
So you go back there, what happens after that?
Anyway, vacation, 15 days, well, leave. And then after that, we get back to life in the battalion. I worked with the missions assigned to it.
Which upcoming missions caught your attention, or what happened next?
What happened next? I wanted to join the Special Forces, so I prepared for my tests. I taught.
For those who don't know, the Special Forces it's a rank above, ultimately.
It's not a rank above. The Special Forces are units that are capable of operating in small groups, what we call commandos, who carry out high-value missions for France. So it's often counter-terrorism, it can be pure and hard counter-terrorism or hostage rescue abroad. It can be intelligence gathering, it can be support and training for certain foreign units.
These are major missions.
Yeah, these are missions that will really, as I said, have a high added value. Often it's counter-terrorism operations. Now, if we look at the news, there was an attempted coup in Benin. The French Special Forces went to fight the coup plotters to prevent the coup from happening.
If you want to join that unit, I mean, those Special Forces, how does it work? So
we write a report, it's called a debrief, we prepare ourselves, and then we take the tests. The tests depend on which unit you're aiming for. Yeah, okay, there are tests, they're basic tests, usually they're tests. By the 8 kill tap, so it's 8 kilometers in ranger gear, that means a backpack, heavy helmet and weapon. There's a kata, there are pull-ups, there are physical tests, there are interviews with a psychologist. It's a small set of tests, more or less specific to the unit you're applying for. And then you're either accepted or not, and if you are, You go into training to become operational.
So you're going to do this training then?
No, I didn't do the training. Why? Because I lost my little brother in a car accident. Pretty much when the training started, so I decided not to continue my contract. I was at the end of my contract. I was supposed to resign in order to join the special forces, so I decided not to resign. And I took my police and gendarmerie exams. Okay.
And so how did it go?
I took my exams, I passed them, I went to the academy, and after graduating, I chose Saint-Denis 3 weeks after graduating. A fantastic story that happened with, well, it kind of brought me back to what I had experienced in Afghanistan with a robber who had brandished his weapon, who had committed another jewelry heist. So,
How long after arriving did this happen?
3 weeks after I left school, yes, just 3 weeks.
There. Did they call you for a specific mission, or was it just like that?
No, I was assigned to emergency police. We actually heard on the radio about a nearby robbery in progress. We were on a mission to fight violent thefts in Saint-Denis, so we left that mission to join the units that were following the vehicle that was fleeing. Your job.
So at that moment, what's everyone's job?
There, who was on the robbery operation, it was to stop the vehicle and arrest the suspects.
So, when you say stop the vehicle, do you mean the robber is in a vehicle? What's the context?
It's a person who arrives, two people who arrived with a vehicle at a jewelry and valuables warehouse, and they robbed the people working in the warehouse. They took the valuables.
And they're trying to get away with the loot, trying to get away with it. Okay, got it, and you catch up to them, or at least you try to.
Well, our vehicle, we didn't catch up to them. There was already one of the BAT vehicles from Saint-Denis that was already behind them. However, we understood that they were going to pass through a specific place because they were circling around Ile Saint-Denis. We set up a roadblock, and 3 minutes later she saw the vehicle coming toward us. We decide to use this roadblock to secure ourselves, and so the vehicle stops, and then the chase begins. The driver stops, turns off the engine, and lets himself be apprehended. Okay, one of the officers goes to the driver to apprehend him, but the passenger gets out of the vehicle and starts shooting several times. He fires, so he was armed. He fires several times in our direction, and as he gets out of the vehicle, he jumps out. Then, he shoots at a BSC officer who takes 2 bullets straight to the head. After that, he takes cover behind the vehicle. I was behind the hood of a vehicle and he was behind the trunk. That's where we were, okay?
You're right next to each other, just a few, yes?
About 3 meters apart.
And how many police officers were there to set up the roadblock?
During the operation, counting the officers who were behind us, there were about 10 of us, about 10. Yeah, I didn't see it, but the officer he shot at collapsed. He fell down. I saw him near the trunk of the vehicle, so I decided to go get him. I was about 2 or 3 meters from him when I told him to drop his weapon and get on the ground. He fired at me, so I fired back. Almost at the same time as he fired, he fell. As I was moving and shooting at the same time, I fell too because I tripped on the curb. I went around the vehicle, got back up and checked to make sure I wasn't injured.
Did he shoot at him or not? Of course he did.
He shot at me, but he missed. I went around the vehicle to catch him from behind, and at that point he was on the ground. There were several people shooting. I knew I had hit at least the head and the chest. Then, another officer joined me almost at the same time and handcuffed him. And after that, well, several other actions took place. And then I started taking care of the officer who was injured, and we began giving him medical attention so that he could stay alive, at least until the paramedics arrived.
And did he manage to stay alive in the end, or not necessarily?
Yeah, damn, by some miracle.
Paramedics arrived? Does that guy even survive, or not necessarily? You mean the guy with the thing on his head?
No, he dies.
No, but the guy who has... Oh, yeah.
He survives.
Damn, he survived.
Yeah, he survives.
Where was he hit? In the head?
He was hit in the cheek, the back of the head, the top of the head, and there was an exit wound near his nose, so...
The robber, however, died instantly.
He didn't die instantly, he passed away a few minutes later, yeah.
So what happens for you after this mission?
After the mission, it got some media attention. We were received by the Minister of the Interior and the President of the Republic. It helped unlock quite a few budgets, specifically for the public patrol units and police stations in the 93rd District. It was a blessing in disguise, you could say. And after that, I decided to leave the police station and take tests for other units. So I joined a unit called the General Support Operations 75. Yeah, okay, it's a support unit. It's a unit that assists the investigation group. The main mission of the General Support Operations is to go and arrest individuals who are considered dangerous. At 6 in the morning, so we break down the door, we secure the place where the individual is arrested, we arrest the person, and then after that, the investigation teams conduct the search. That's it, and they do their job. But our job is precisely to arrest the person at their home. And the secondary missions of the General Support Operations include fighting crime, like what the BAC units do. except that we did it in uniform and there was also assistance. At level 3 groups, these are the intervention groups, so the BRIPP for everything related to attacks, hostage situations, and armed individuals in Paris.
Are there any other missions that you did at that time or maybe later that stood out to you, maybe?
All the attacks. The group was deployed for all the attacks in Paris. Well, that happened in Paris, so the Louvre. Well, I wasn't in the unit yet, but Bataclan.
How does it work? Like that when you're called in for one, for example, in the case of the Bataclan,
I wasn't called for Bataclan since I wasn't in the group yet, but I was deployed for the Louvre, Notre Dame, and Xavier Jugelet. So how does it go?
When it's like that?
Often it's a bit chaotic, so often we come in to clear up any doubts. Around the area, we have a team that's ready if we have to go to a residence to do a search. Because the investigation teams may have located accomplices or co-perpetrators, so often we were deployed for that. And then some missions that stood out to me in the general support operations, there was one mission that was pretty funny and that I had already talked about. We had a madman, it was an old man, 74 years old.
A madman?
A person barricaded himself. Armed units responded because we were called for a madman. It was an old man, about 80 or 85 years old, who got into an argument with his neighbor, went to get a weapon he had at home, a revolver, who puts it in his neighbor's mouth and says to him, "Next time you annoy me, I'll blow your head off." So the neighbor calls the police, the old man goes back to his house, and so we get called in for that. We set up an assault team, so when it's like that, we arrive on the scene and set up the team. A decision is made by the police headquarters staff. Is it the general support operations that intervenes, or is it the BRPP that's going to intervene? Depending on whether the guy is known, whether he has weapons, if it's okay, he blows it up, etc. Well, in this case, the general support operations was going to intervene. It wasn't the BRPP that was going to be deployed. And we tried to make voice contact with the man, but there's no response, so we decide to go in after a while. So yes.
He doesn't respond, that's it?
He doesn't respond. He wasn't responding because he had fallen asleep. He was demented. So we break down the door and rush into the group, into the apartment. And actually, I arrive with another one of my colleagues in the room, actually, where the gentleman had fallen asleep. And when he wakes up, he sees that there are 2 police officers with shields, weapons pointed at him. And actually, he tries to put his hand under his mattress, and so we arrest him without too much difficulty. And actually, when we lift the mattress, well, once the apartment is secured, we lift the mattress, and there we see that there's the revolver he wanted to grab, I think, to shoot at us. And something pretty funny is that this guy, he must have thought of himself as an illegal immigrant. Under the mattress, there was the revolver, his passport, and right next to it, there was an adult digital versatile disc, special for old men. What the fuck, damn, that's crazy. That was a pretty memorable intervention, but also pretty funny. We've handled a few of those, people who were barricaded, we've dealt with people who wanted to commit suicide, and we always arrived at the right moment. At the moment when they wanted to jump, we managed to catch them just in time, either by grabbing them, or once I think the person was about to jump, and actually they didn't jump, because the officer who was holding the shield, the first shield, tasered him, so it stopped him right away when he said he was going to jump. There you go, we had several interesting comments.
That has absolutely nothing to do with it. I've always wondered, does it hurt when you get tasered like that? So do you always go down? Well,
actually, the taser has 2 functions. Either it shoots out little barbs attached to a wire and that paralyzes you. It's not very pleasant. Or you can use it in contact mode, and that really hurts. Oh yeah, in contact mode, it hurts a lot.
What is contact mode? It means it's not from a distance?
Actually, don't shoot. Yeah, you can just place the taser, which looks a bit like a yellow gun, right on the person, okay? And actually, by pulling the trigger, it will deliver an electric shock that is extremely painful. It hurts a lot, a whole lot. See?
They offered you the Legion of Honor at some point, yeah?
After the Saint Denis operation, the officer injured in the head received the Legion of Honor. He also got a rank, he became an officer. My department head at the time, he offered me the Legion of Honor or the National Order of Merit.
And I think you refused it, yeah.
Yeah, why? What did he? Out of respect for the officer who had been injured, I think it would be disrespectful on my part if I accepted the same honor as him, while he potentially was going to have a disability for the rest of his life. I mean, we didn't even know if he was going to survive what he had been through. So there you go, I would have said that I didn't want it.
Did you get therapy afterwards?
To get through it afterwards? Yes. Afterwards, I had a bit of a down, but it happened several years later. It was 5 years because it happened in 2020, and after that, I got help for it.
How do you do it? How does it work?
You are followed in a specialized center. I was followed at Hôtel Dieu, at the Paris West Psychotrauma Center. You have a multidisciplinary team taking care of you, so psychologist, psychiatrist.
You also get into sports after?
I always did a lot of sports. I did a lot of judo. I had a good level in judo, and after that I also boxed a lot alongside with the groups. Well, in the areas I went through, we had sports included in the service, in the work. I always did a lot of combat sports.
Did you have colleagues, or even yourself, I don't know, who had post-traumatic syndrome, events?
Yes, some happened later, and it's still pretty taboo for us. I talk about it freely now because I don't care what others think, but some people still struggle to discuss it. Okay, actually, what makes these kinds of things worse is how others look at you, I think, and the fact that some people claim to be traumatized just to get some money from the state, right? Because it's hard to say, okay, this guy's traumatized, and this one, well, no, he's just making stuff up to get money. Honest people, or those who have a lot of pride, I think have a hard time talking about it or don't even realize it. In this case,
you're going to try mixed martial arts eventually.
Yeah, I do mixed martial arts still. Sports are an outlet for everyone, I think. But mixed martial arts is still a very complete sport. It requires thinking, adapting to an opponent who might not have the same martial background as ours. Actually, you have to constantly adapt to the person in front of you, and it's a sport where you can't hide, so the training is tough, and when you fight, it's tough. That's what I love about this sport. In the clubs I've been to, there's always this brotherly spirit. Maybe it's just that I've only been in clubs like that, or maybe in teams like that. But in any case, in the teams I've been in, there's always been that. It's kind of this brotherhood where we try to improve by lifting each other up, each with their own strengths. Before I was with Benoit Saint-Denis. By the way, it's thanks to him that I really got into mixed martial arts because I had more of a boxing background and I was doing a lot of grappling on the side. But yeah, he's the one who got me into the team back then with Daniel Voirin. And that's when I really started training a lot in mixed martial arts. And now I'm at Mahmoudi Gym, and at Mahmoudi Gym there are experts in Muay Thai, there are experts in boxing, and everyone pushes each other to get better. At the moment I train a lot with one of the Bouganem brothers, Yassine, who has an incredible eye for Muay Thai, who has I don't know how many Muay Thai fights, who is impressive in kickboxing, Yassine. He pushes me to improve in boxing, helping me progress, giving me the right tips. And then I try to help him on the ground where he's a bit less skilled. So that's it, we all push each other to get better, that's all. There's a lot of humility, and that's what I love about mixed martial arts. It's something I didn't really find when I was doing English boxing.
Thank you, Mojave. You also recently wrote a book called Of Sweat and Blood. Can you share what it's about and if it covers your journey?
Yes, exactly. It traces from the beginning, my youth, up to today, where I am a medical student.
Do you also discuss your missions inside?
Yes, I talk about a bit of everything. So I share quite a few stories that happened to me or that happened to us when I was in the different positions. And then my career switched to health studies. Impressive?
We'll be glad to have my link at the top of the description for interested viewers. Mojave, thanks for joining this Story School episode. Thanks to everyone. Let me remind you that if you also want to take part in another episode, there's an email showing up right here. Otherwise, have a very, very good evening. I'm putting 2 other episodes on the screen for you. This was Noah. Bye.